So for this last section, we're just going to map out some of the direction of travel and where global telco is headed. And we'll draw together some of the themes we've explored earlier and pose some questions towards the end. Worth quickly looking for a moment at the promise behind 5G as a portent of the hyper-connected world that's developing around us and what it offers, what value it offers to business. All that connectivity has to present opportunities for telco. We've got a few slides here where I've held back from adding fairly meaningless imagery just to get to the salient points that accompany the bullets here. A couple of significant surveys we looked at there, Qualcomm and PSB research, to underline the case. I mean, it's fairly straightforward, right? Trillions of dollars of economic activity where connectivity will underpin it and enable it. And new products and services that have not even been invented yet is the starting point, before we get into a little list here of a few domains and areas of human activity where society will just going to be different in the future than it's been in the past. And we start there with remote working, an obvious area for benefit, but also, as we touched there, from innovation and AR. Over here we've got healthcare. We'll spend a moment on that. Remote operations directed by a world-renowned surgical expert, but conducted by precision robot. That's pretty transformational. And why not tip a healthcare market historically built on inefficiency and being opaque back to being something for the good of us all, reducing government investment of all our taxes into that inefficiency and pushing disintermediation and transparency and sharing, just going to make it all a lot more efficient, because it is a burden with an increasing population. And down here you get more about the changes going on affecting, we'll come back to manufacturing, transport we touched on earlier, and retail and moving around our cities. So that's a little bit by 5G. We use this slide a lot in our day-to-day, which I thought was relevant here, just looking at the connectivity underpinning the whole of the IoT, smart manufacturing growth around the world. Look at the areas in industrial innovation and activity that just depend on it. It's a massive and essential move to digital intelligence, really, operational efficiency across geographies and industries. The IoT sensors there, they're the triggers, but the expectation of instant connection and data transfer and real-time analytics that go alongside it, what can be the telco role in facilitating all of that? In a way, in a central ecosystem hub, as Microsoft, we said earlier, is the center of their hub with their data through Azure. What can a telco role behind that? Because this is not going away. The connection of products to reveal services, warranty management and field services, product lifecycle over there on the right, digital factories, the shipping of 3D printed models, and the reduction of ships, if you will, going across oceans, because it used to be cheaper to ship it in when, if you can print it locally, there's going to be a lot less waste, travel, pollution, all kinds of things. So this overview of the smart manufacturing, I think not always read it before, but there is connectivity underpinning it all and a role for the telcos and all that. We'll just go on and look at the same issue, growth and the future from a different perspective by telco. Once again, it's 5G that's the initiator here, but really it's just about hyper connectivity, isn't it? The thing that we all see happening. 5G is going to do it, but what can telco find a new role for itself? And we've touched on this products to services move. Another way of saying that is becoming a platform business, the hub in the middle. And we've just got to make sure when looking at all this and prioritizing all this, that you're aligning different models, which might become subscription revenue models and monthly recurring models, more frequent but maybe less in volume of revenues, against some of your capital investments. So there's a tricky bit of financial re-engineering and cultural shifts got to go on there, but also maintain focus on all of this offer of streamlining processes and using AI to reduce inefficiency, attract new customers, of course, by that reduction in inefficiency. And IoT can add massive new workloads and load on the system that you're going to have to cope with. So there's an awful lot of work to organize yourselves to be able to do that, of course. One way we have of talking about that, which we talk about other ways, is it's called a keystone partner, becoming that in a platform business, right? Someone central to the ecosystem. And rather than trying to be a dominant provider, getting dragged down by what's called premium price captivity, that's where you're the one inventing everything and become perceived as a barrier to innovation because you're trying to do everything yourself and shutting down all the niche expertise. This is all about finding partners to enable getting things to market quickly and just doing it differently than history suggested. So a few areas here of technology value, cloud being a massive part of all of that. There are partnerships that you can develop with cloud providers where you don't have to be the ones building all of the automation use cases and all the big data analytics overheads. They're built into some of the cloud offerings, and through that, straight away, a starting point, you can improve the way you communicate with your customers, improve billing services, fulfilling orders, installation of new equipment and repairs. Massive cloud role. I see it almost as number one out of this long list we've got that every telco is looking at. But also the ecosystem we touched on there, but digital identity, we touched on that. We believe that's a massive new thing in society. The power of the individual, the way that they manage their data, questions being asked at Microsoft and Facebook about that at the moment. The telco does have a trusted role and a unique connection with the customer through their long-standing relationship and their understanding of their financial status in the world. There's a trust issue which gives you a lead in that area, and could you be the people helping customers navigate the IoT world? A few more over here. Use cases being discussed, technologies, fintech, insurtech, health tech is all part of the smart city future. There is an individual trying to navigate through that, and could you be that source of, as I say, the identity to get through it, but also the connectivity which underpins it all. Security of infrastructure, how to get customer support. These are kind of recurring themes just spoken through different lenses. Being customer centric, we'll touch on again in a moment. Using potentially the field service engineer, the gig economy to get repairs done and less reliant on carrying a massive historical group of engineers. I mean, that's change, right? It's a change, but the world is changing and you've got to organize yourselves to be efficient amongst it. And last but by no means least, and restating many of the things we said about cloud, AI offers many operational use cases that are kind of defensive and organizing and finding efficiencies, but using those that building block of intelligent search and solutions that recommended that come out of organizing yourself and automating, new offensive scenarios and revenue streams will emerge. So you have to do the defensive organizational part first, but in understanding the way your data flows, you will find through RPA we've written down there and streamlining complex scenarios, places where you will find areas to generate new revenues. One theme here is how and when will you be organizing your technology roadmap so it's not all kind of siloed and isolated. It's got to be part of a connected thought process, and that's challenging for all telcos. So let's just move on to how do telcos act on all these possibilities? How do they innovate? Well, just let's go back to history suggests that it was Edison and Bell gave us the concept of the telco labs. Those Bell labs became very famous early in the 20th century. They've now found a home inside the Nokia Bell labs, and no pressure on them with their mission statement on this homepage to disrupt the next phase of human existence. Pretty big, but closer to home in telcos that we know and recognize in the world. This is Deutsche Telekom. They've got their T labs headquartered in Berlin, doing innovations under their own steam, but also partnering with academic R&D partners in universities out of Berlin and Vienna and Hungary and Israel. So it's that ecosystem of partners to try and find different perspectives to bring value to scenarios that you want to take to customers. And there are, of course, many others doing the same thing across the world, where internal innovation with partners marries with some niche specialists, where telcos do not need to start thinking of those specialists as potential accelerators to market with their offerings, rather than competitors to be copied or squashed, as I mentioned earlier. So we're just kind of honing in on the wrap up here, really. Some big decisions to be made. What is the role for a telco, and of course the future role for TELUS as one of them? Do you want to hold the network infrastructure, invest in it and be the seller of services around that? Or is it focusing on the customer relationships that you've got a unique insight into how they work and behave? Or, can it be both? Questions are just piling out here. Developing that infrastructure and then charging other people to access the infrastructure to build services and innovations on top of that, kind of effectively outsourcing innovation, as many other companies with an enterprise app store approach have done. Or become a virtual telco where you create the services and packages for other telco customers. That's another flip side of doing that. Or could you develop the virtual platforms for external developers and partners through API gateways, developer communities to create new services on your behalf and get them to market. There are a few ways of looking at the same scenario just through different optics. And finally, just to wrap up in conclusion, really, 3 big areas that seem to be offering, areas to double down on, if you will. Be completely customer centric. Extreme personalization is a theme we touch on a lot, where you're using what comes from usage statistics, but also big data and predictive analytics to personalize to the audience of one what's completely most useful to them. And if you get really good at that, you build loyalty and people stick around. And can you create new services to help them recommend friends, bring new people inside? Can you help them navigate through this world of smart cities and smart manufacturing, if their businesses maybe through all these IoT data inputs, which are just going to explode and need managing and making sense of? Can you become their customers' intelligent assistants and proactive guide through this complicated world, and make revenues from third-party offerings to show them and block them and don't overwhelm them? So customer centricity, definitely one. I mean, IoT itself is a similar avenue, but different. And if we just abstract the customer from that, this IoT sensors they are being added, but maybe it's a new decision matrix needs to happen about charging for access. Where does all this connectivity land? How does it manifest itself? Can you charge relatively small fees, maybe for individuals to ingest the data from IoT on their network and use it? Maybe higher fees for enterprises. If you're the people at TELUS who can make sense of these incoming data streams and turn that into new service revenues, maybe you can charge enough to make a whole healthy new direction for your business, making those enterprises more efficient, because if you're doing it for thousands of customers, of course, you'll do it better than they'll do individually. You are in the driving seat in many ways for providing access, provided that pricing balance gets established quickly. And last of these 3 big points, TELUS, of course, has chosen healthcare. We see that on your website, and Bell and Rogers have chosen media and entertainment as a first foray into horizontal offerings outside of maybe core telco. And there are others to be decided along the way. But there are other horizontal offerings that, just could be the ones that get you excited, and offerings that just explode. Could it be, as we talked earlier about workplace as a service, some of the offerings that all businesses need? They're ingesting a lot more data. They're going to need help with security. It's a massive worry. So maybe you can make money from people's concerns around security, the data infrastructure that houses that security and supports it and directs it. Maybe those areas as horizontal offerings could be your prime value generator. Summary of all of this: how does TELUS find a role where your value to all enterprises, because of your scale, is something that they pay for? You do that by learning from your customers, learning from your data. What is going on out there? Where are the most credible offerings that are the extensions of what you do already, and believable for yourselves to embrace those and add them as add-ons in your journey towards the future? It seems like already happening, but it seems obvious really to start with the analytics, the AI-based technologies to automate away inefficiencies, to preserve margins by reducing operating costs. Of course, you're doing that already. Remove redundancy and overlap, which we find in some of our research. Single sign-on for customers and enterprises, so they can self-serve and navigate their way around and access themselves. The single source of truth, which helps them make the greatest decisions, increases your value, increases their loyalty, and makes obvious maybe some of the decisions to be made in a cooperative future where you're delivering value to each other and helping them navigate the digital explosion going on around. So that's our conclusion, a few thoughts on the future of telco.